Hello, everyone. How you choosing? Hopefully you're choosing well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because when we make better choices, you will live a better life. Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Mr. Brown Show. I'm Mr. Brown, and I want to just create content and resources to help all of you, all of us, as a community, as a world, make better choices to live a better life. So in this episode, we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about COVID-19, coronavirus, shelter in place, quarantine, shut-in program. But we're going to talk about it in a way that's not just gloom and doom. I'm interviewing, and I use that word interview lightly because it's more of a conversation with myself and Mike Freeman, who is a good friend, who has been a principal, superintendent. Now he's an instructional. He's got a big title. He's senior. You'll hear his title is like 9 syllables long. But what I love about him is not about his title. It's about helping people. From the time I met him as a principal at Mountain View Middle School, he has a heart. What I loved also was that all the kids knew him personally, relationship. It wasn't just he was in the office somewhere, but he really focused on working those relationships and helping kids know him. And then he was a principal of my daughter's school. I pull up to school one day, the brother's on top of the roof dressed as an elf. Like, who does that? I appreciate his heart. I appreciate his knowledge. I appreciate his experience. And so in this episode, we have a conversation. And let me give you a little warning up front. It's not necessarily an outline where it's just like we talk about this, then this, then this. It's more like we talk about this, like all of it mixed together. Because whenever me and Mr. Freeman get together, we have some great conversations. And it's like if you were walking in a park somewhere, our conversation is like we walking on the straight path, but then we stop at every little scenic place we want to stop at. We see the bush and we talk about how great the bush is. Then we walk a little bit further, talk about the tree, the dandelions, the weeds, the grass, even the little ant. That's what we do. So in this conversation, we're going to talk about a lot of things. And hopefully we give some helpful tips that we're learning ourselves as parents, as educators, as those who worked in schools and those who are dealing with this COVID-19 with kids in our home. And how are we adjusting to working from home and working with our kids? And, I made a joke the other day on social media. I was like, bring your kids to work day because we all at home now, right? And I got to work too. And so I hope you enjoy this conversation. And if you want to join the conversation, you can do it several ways. Number one, you can call our 24-hour feedback phone. It's a voicemail line. You can leave a voicemail, or you can text it and give your comments there, and I may use them on a future episode. That number is 530-535-8121. Once again, 530-535-8121. You can also leave a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment below. If you're watching on Facebook, leave a comment below. If you're listening to us through Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or Spotify, I don't know if you can leave comments on Spotify, but you can give us a rating. I know that much. We'd love for you to rate us and give us a 5-star rating. That'd be so nice. 5 stars. Anyway, hope you can join the conversation. I really hope you enjoy this conversation with myself and Mr. Mike Freeman. And I don't have a fancy title yet. We'll come up with that. But we're talking about the state of our world and how we can, put it this way, how we can not just survive, but thrive through this whole coronavirus crisis. So hope you enjoyed the episode, and thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next episode. All right, I'm here with Mr. Freeman. We're recording from this video, that video, and on our live on Zoom, Mr. Mike Freeman, the man, the myth. He's not a legend. He's not a myth. He's not a myth yet. He is a legend. You've done some great work in Shasta County. Real quick story. I was speaking at a parenting event, and one parent came up to me afterwards, and she said, Mr. Brown, I remember you from 8th grade. You spoke at my school at Mountain View Middle School. And I was like, Mr. Freeman was the principal? She's like, yeah. And she had nothing but great things to say about you. And I felt really...
Mountain View Middle School, 8th grade. That goes back a little bit.
Yeah, that made me feel really old, honestly. But Mr. Freeman, we do a lot of talking, and I just wanted to share some of our conversation with the audience about just this whole COVID-19 and shelter in place order. But let's take a little step back and talk about how we met, first of all, and what you do now, because you have been an administrator, you're a principal, you're a teacher. So give me some history about who is Mr. Mike Freeman?
All right, man. I love what you do. So, and I appreciate working with you. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. Who is Mike Freeman? Well, first of all, you need to know Mike Freeman's married to Kelly Freeman. That's a major upgrade. She's been my rock. We've been at this thing for over 21 years now. We have 2 kids. Grayson A. They're at Shasta High School. So we're going through this COVID-19 thing with you as parents. And I started out teaching Spanish. I don't even know if you know that about me.
I do not know that about you. Sophia's actually in there playing the Spanish game with this little thing with words, and she puts the words together and they say it in Spanish. So I should tell her to call you.
There you go. So I started out teaching out the Spanish at Foothill High School. From there, went to Anderson High School as assistant principal, and then went to Mountain View Middle School, and that's where our paths crossed for the first time. That feels like a long time ago.
It was.
And it probably was. It probably was. So at Mountain View Middle School, was there for a handful of years, and then had the opportunity to do the superintendent principal gig out of Grant School. And now I'm at the Shasta County Office of Education working with Instructional Services.
Now you got wait. You got to tell people your title, because you got an impressive title.
The most impressive title would be husband and dad, and then after that, it goes something like Senior Executive Director of Instructional Services at Shasta County Office of Education.
See, I should count the syllables. That's how you know you're important. If you got a title with a lot of syllables in it. Hey, it's not.
You know what? It's the most important work is what's happening right now at schools, and we're just there at Shasta County Office of Ed to try to provide support, whether that's to administration, to teachers, to school office staff and counselors, and then obviously to parents. These are crazy days, right? I mean, we've never really been through something like this, and we've been through things.
Yeah,
right. Shasta County, we've been through some things, and here we are going through something as an entire world.
Yeah.
So.
And that's one thing I really appreciate about you. Ever since I've known you, even though you're a principal, you were probably one of the most engaging principals I've ever worked with. Like, not just with me as a person coming on your campus as a speaker, but with the kids. I mean, they knew you. They.
Well, you want to know where that comes from?
Where's that come from?
When I was thinking about becoming when the Mountain View Middle School position opened up, and I was thinking about doing it, I was talking to some friends, and no one could remember their middle school principal. And I was like, all right. If we're going to do this, we may make a ton of mistakes, but by golly, we're going to be memorable. And so I always look at my job as chief memory maker, right?
Chief memory maker. I like that.
Chief memory maker. That's what school and that's what learning is about. It's about retaining things and remembering things. So I always felt like it was important for me to, and then obviously, you know the deal too. Relationships are everything.
Right.
If they don't know how much you care, you got to wear it on your sleeve, because they'll sniff it out if it's not real. So, always tried to do that, and now more than ever, it's important that we're out there forming and keeping up these positive relationships with folks.
And I think that's what really makes a big difference, that kids do remember you. And people said, I know you. Somebody accused me one time as being a speaker. I want people to like me. Well, I don't want you to dislike me, but I don't want you to remember the message. So if I can relate with you and I can engage you in a way that can help you remember the message, then we have a win. Because at the end of the day, I want you to think about your choices. You know the message. When we make better choices, live better life. So choose well. Can I get an oh yeah? Can I get oh yeah?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, Evan says.
Oh yeah.
Evan,
you know when I heard that the first.
I still got you.
Okay.
You almost hung up again. You learning how to use these AirPods.
Hey, first time I heard that message, man, I knew we'd be working together, because that is the foundation of so much of what we're trying to do with young people and old people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that message is universal, but we've had some good times. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about some of the wild things that we've done, and it's been fun. So,
okay, we'll do another episode about the Batman and Robin costumes. We'll do that later. But for today, we want to jump into something we talked about the other day on the phone. And I just think every time we talk, we can talk for hours about just looking for needs and helping people, because that's our heart. But you said some interesting things, I thought, about this whole new transition from everything being what we think is normal, and then everybody's at home. Parents are working from home, kids are at home.
Yeah, instantly, right?
Like it wasn't even like we can prepare for it. It was like, boom, there it was, right? It wasn't like, okay, 3 weeks from now you'll be working from home. It is like, here we are. And so schools have been scrambling to do several things: provide meals for students, which is great, and even homework. And we had a conversation about this packet of information coming home. and you said something about hierarchy of needs. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You said the guy's name, and I can't remember his name, but let's talk about that.
Man, I don't have a tattoo, but if I was going to have a tattoo, I'd have a tattoo of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because the bottom line is it's very difficult for people to talk about becoming your best self when your basic needs aren't being met. We all want to be that best version of ourselves, but if you're hungry, right, your needs are different. If you're not feeling safe, your needs are different. And so, props to the school districts for doing whatever they had to do so dang quickly to get that meal program up and running. And now across Shasta County, folks can get access to those meals, because that school meal program, some of the most important people in our schools work in our cafeterias.
Oh, yeah. I had a great relationship with my lunch ladies, man. As a matter of fact, I had such a good relationship with my lunch ladies when I was growing up that today for my birthday, I'm having apple crisp. That's what I'm having for my birthday. Yes,
Brown.
my birthday. Apple crisp inspired by the lunch ladies across America.
There you go. Yeah. So it makes sense to start there, right? But we can't finish there. So basic needs being met, meals, and not just lunch. They're putting together combos. They're putting together lunch and dinners. They're putting together multiple days. And so that's just been a tremendous effort. And Shasta County Office of Education, I know Michelle Larson's been busy working, trying to coordinate, because there's a lot of pickups and drop-offs and all kinds of those things. So we can't get where we want to get if those basic needs aren't being met. And so we start with food, but you and I both know that there's so much more to it than just, okay, now they're not hungry. How are people feeling? We're in a global pandemic. Safety is kind of elusive right now. Security might be elusive.
Yeah.
Financial security. A lot of things are running through parents' heads, and in our conversation just came up where, like if we can get together and even just share a message for parents and try to speak some peace and some calm to folks, so that kids can pick up and feel that peace and calm, because that's what's needed right now.
And I think, so let's talk about that, and the idea of, let's give some words, some encouragement to parents, because some of them were feeling overwhelmed. I think I kept hearing this joke, or seeing this joke on Facebook about, second day of homeschool, 2 kids suspended for fighting, and the teacher, fired for drinking on the job, so, and I get the stress. But you talk about hierarchy of needs. So in his hierarchy of needs, the man's name I will put on the podcast somewhere, but you said Maslow?
Maslow, you got it.
Maslow.
You got it. Look at that.
So I don't know. So explain his hierarchy of needs, and then we're going to try to plug some of those in these episodes that we do. So what were his hierarchy of needs that he talked about?
So the basics, right? The basics would be the physiological needs. So even like looking at things like shelter, clothing, food. As we go through those basic needs, once those are met, then we can start talking about overall security, right? Like, do we know where our next meal is coming from? Do we know, are we in do we have healthy relationships? Then that gets us into friendships, family members. And then we start turning inwards towards things like confidence and self-esteem. Do we have respect for ourselves? Do we respect other people? And then as we get to the top, that's where the creativity, the spontaneity, the problem solving, all those things that we want to accomplish in schools, that's kind of the top, right? So we work up from the bottom with those foundations. Once those foundations are in place, then we can start talking about math, right? We start talking about creativity. We can start talking about reflection on some things that they're learning in school. If we don't have those other things, it's a house of cards.
And that's what I want to talk about really quick, because you're right. The schools did a great job of getting the meal program together. Many schools have done or doing a good job of getting some of the packets. And my daughter's got a packet of stuff she can work through. But I think before they start working on the packet, I think we got to start working on that relationship. Me and my wife made a podcast, and we talked about just this idea that because we're getting all the kids instantly from school, parents from work, We're all in the same building. The truth is, many of us look forward to our kids leaving. like you remember the Cosby Show where the first day of school, they jumped out of bed and they got the kids out. They were so excited, right? And many of us live that every day. We can't wait to get our kids out the house so we can go to work. And the truth is, the majority of our day is apart from our kids. But now it's all day long. And so we need to talk about
normal, right?
It's a new normal.
New normal that we're just scrambling.
But we haven't, I don't think we've taken a step back, and all of us need to take a step back and just set some new relationship boundaries for our families. Like, because if you already, were just trying to get rid of your kids, and then the truth is they want to get rid of you, how can we now, what are some things we can tell parents to do to help bridge that gap? And one of the first things I thought about was boundaries, like sitting down with your kids and explaining what this new thing is that's going on, and letting them talk and express themselves as well.
Yeah, boundary is a great word. Structure is another great word. I think that school is interesting, right? I mean, we don't think about how much structure school provides in the lives of kids. But, I mean, basically you have bells. Bells ring, kids get up, they go on to the next thing. There's transition, there's a flow. Every morning for 180 days, I know your kids out of grant school, but their day starts with some morning announcements, Pledge of Allegiance, right? Some happy birthdays. All of those things are, I mean, kids fight it when they're in it.
Yes.
Right? We've all seen that, man, get me out of here, give me summer. But when it's gone, they miss it.
And my daughter,
right now, it's like it.
My daughter's a great example of that. The first week, the first 2 days, we did homeschooling, and my daughter was like, she's like, "Mommy, you need to be more strict. We need better, we need more rules." And so my wife said, "Okay, Sophia, you can help set the schedule." So Sophia made the schedule. So from this time, Mommy, it's lunchtime. You're later. It's snack break, recess, because they need that. And you talk about security. I think sometimes those boundaries or structure brings that security that they're craving.
Well, as you're talking, I'm thinking about a time where you and I had a room full of kids together, and we're hanging out and we're asking questions, trying to gain some insight. And you asked, and the question of rules came up, right? And the question was, you asked a room full of kids if they like rules, and I was expecting there's no way they like rules, but they raised their hand and they said, yeah, they did. And when you asked why, their answer shocked me, man. I remember like it was yesterday, and this was several years ago. But the answer that the kids gave to that question of why they like rules is because rules send the message that you care.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that structure means, hey, we care. We care about your success in this, and we understand that this isn't just going to happen. There's a reason why we call it summer slide, right? People don't necessarily go off to summer and come back smarter, right? They slip a little. Well, this was instant summer, right?
Yeah.
It was like, boom, school's out, spring break for a month or however long we're in this thing. And then schools and parents were all struggling with what does instruction look like at home? How do we meet the needs of our most vulnerable students? And so that structure and routine is huge. It's important. And we learned really early on that we need it. Right? Whether that's a bedtime, right? Whether it's a get up and it's an alarm clock. I think that you don't want to kill them, right? I mean, I think that's one of the other challenges is we think we got to be like school.
And I don't think that's the case. I think there's been research done. You probably read it too, that the schools start too early for kids in the first place. They're getting up, they're going out in the dark to go to the bus stop. So here's an opportunity. Hey, let's start a little later, but we can go a little deeper. We can start a little later in the day, let the kids actually wake up and not be all grumpy, because the truth is most kids don't wake up till 10 o'clock anyway. They're sleepy, they're slouching. So make some adjustments that can be, like I said in the video with my wife, don't grasp for what was, create something new. And make a new structure for your home that works for your home and works, because the truth is some of us don't want to get up that early. Now that we don't have to, guess what? We don't have to. So yesterday, our day started at 7, and that's late for my kids. My kids get up at 5:30. My Daddy, can I get up? We have a rule: you can't get up before 6. So, so it's just different based on your family. But I think you just go ahead and use what you have and create something new. Yeah,
I love that. Create something new. I think that this is an opportunity, right? I mean, I think that sometimes we're in this situation and things happen to us, but and we would never force ourselves into this situation, but here we are, and if we view it as an opportunity, we can create something new. And I would even propose that us as teachers in the education, this is changing how we might think of teaching. And we might come out of this COVID-19 experience actually having learned some things that could make our classrooms more engaging, right? I mean, we're all right now, like, technology has been this thing that we've been talking about as an engagement strategy and personalizing learning. And here we are, like, boom, instant laboratory, right? Instant experiment. What are we going to learn, and how might this, I mean, eventually we are going to get through this. Right? Eventually life will come to normal, whatever that new normal might look like. But it would be awesome if we learned something from these experiences as parents, as students, and as school systems trying to be responsive to what life's throwing at us. Right? That's life. Life happens, things happen. We could sit here and say why, or we could say what is there to learn from this? Right? How can I learn from this?
You're going to make me talk about a growth mindset. I've been working with Sophia about a growth mindset and not fixing our minds on what was and what should have been. She was so upset yesterday about something that didn't take place. I'm like, okay, take a deep breath. I agree with you. That did not take place. We didn't like that. But what can we do now? How can we move forward in a positive way? Because if you attach all your emotion, your feelings to what should have been, you can't move forward. It'll be very difficult to move forward. So I've been teaching about a growth.
I don't want to get all sappy dad on you and emotional, but last night, my daughter comes walking down the hallway in her prom dress.
Oh man.
she's looking beautiful, right? And she's looking gorgeous. And for the first time, I kind of get an idea of what this is doing and how this is impacting kids. It's easy to say, I miss what was. I mean, I miss brackets, right? I miss March Madness. This baseball season, right? All of these things. But then when you see something like that, you really have to go to, that locus of control. Like, there's a lot of things in this world, in this life, that I just can't control. If I spend vital energy worrying about those things that I can't control, I'm going to go crazy.
Right.
Right. And I think that a lot of us parents are in this situation where right now we might be in that crazy, but we're coming up on a week and a half of this.
Yeah.
Right. So we need to stay safe, and we need to stay sane. And part of that sanity is focusing on what we can control.
But and you made a great point, because I don't want to rush over this. My wife does a great job. If something happens with our kids, let's say Evan does something, gets hurt, my immediate reaction usually is, okay, don't do that next time. I'm looking at, okay, what happened? Well, my wife is like, oh, how do you feel? And she wants to just commiserate, or just kind of let them feel their feeling and stop for a moment before we move forward. Because I'm thinking, okay, it happened, let's move forward. But I want to take a pause and say, with your daughter, hey, let's talk about how she feels about not having prom this year. Let's spend some moment just empathizing with that feeling before we move on.
And empathizing is the key word, right? Sitting with them.
Yeah.
Sitting with them in it.
Right. And I think it's important to do that. And like, it's okay not to be okay. And that's another video I made recently. It's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay there. And so I want to help them embrace it's not okay to be okay, to say, my kids, this is strange, this is different. Daddy's struggling with this. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have this sense of control anymore. Let's talk about that. Let's feel that for a moment. But then after that, let's get up and move forward to what we can do. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Can do thing, man. I don't want to get lost here, because I could go on a crazy bird walk on this. But we talk about empathy, and everybody's big on empathy, and I totally get empathy. Right. And the work that Brene Brown has done, and there's a TED Talk, and like 30 million people have seen this thing or whatever. And I get that. And empathy is powerful, and sitting with somebody in it. But compassion is empathy plus the intent to do something about it. Right. And compassion is it allows us to keep our state. Right. Like sometimes empathy, we can have empathy fatigue. Like, I'm sitting with you and you're sharing me your problems, and I'm sitting with you, and then you leave and you're better, and I'm worrying your problems. and I'm carrying this.
Right.
Where that compassion allows me to keep my state. I'm listening to you and I'm with you, but I'm with you with an intent to help you do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not carrying it. I'm not owning it.
Right.
Right. And so I think that's a valuable difference. We have to empathize with what kids are losing, because kids are losing.
Yeah.
We're losing. But I think it's a sacrifice that we're willing to make, because we're trying to, our number one goal is to flatten that curve and make COVID-19 a thing of the past. So what an amazing thing, right? That Covey principle of beginning with the end in mind. What an amazing thing if at the end of this, we're looking back and our families are missing those days. Right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh man, Dad, remember COVID-19 where we got to like hang out together and you were my math teacher and it was like crazy. But that could be something pretty amazing if we think about it with the end in mind like that, instead of just a jail thing.
And I like to wrap things up in a bow or put something in steps to say, hey, here's one thing to consider, or like we said, don't grasp for what was, create something new. But I think we've talked about a lot of things for parents can do. And I think one is stop and have a conversation with the kids so we can feel what they feel, have compassion, have that empathy that moves to compassion, but then come up with a plan to move forward. So in other words, let's stop and hear what the kids have to say. My wife asked both of my kids at dinner table, how you guys feeling about this whole thing? And the most interesting thing was what Evan said. Evan was articulating his feelings about the whole coronavirus. And I thought, whoa, he's a 4-year-old. But yes, and he's saying things I wouldn't have thought he would have said. But just to take that time to listen to them is important. So I want to say to parents, hey, we got food sources, we got all the packet stuff, but you talking about those needs. They got food. We definitely got shelter because we're sheltering in place, right? We're shut-ins now, right? But that security piece, knowing that you're there. And so I think it's important for parents to show up and say, let me listen to my kids. Let me have some empathy that moves to compassion, and let's come up with a plan together to move forward. So it's not just like
that kid out of the corner. The kid out of the corner of their eyes looking at how dad's responding.
Yes.
How mom's responding to this, right? Are they secure? When they are, are they lip service? Because kids can smell fake, right?
Yeah.
So if you're saying, yeah, honey, we're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And then you turn on the news and you're watching news for 6 hours about crazy stuff happening throughout the world. And you start losing some of that hope and security, it's going to be contagious, right?
Right.
They're going to respond how you respond. And I think that sitting with the kids and having a conversation about how, hey, it's okay to be scared.
Yes.
Right? Courage is actually doing something in the face of fear.
Mm-hmm.
We're not supposed to be super dad out there or super mom saying, hey, I got this and I can teach your math. Oh, and you need a chemistry experiment? Oh, I got all, right? It's just about, hey, this is new for all of us.
It is.
Right? And Brene Brown would say, we are most powerful when we are most vulnerable. And there's nothing more vulnerable than doing something for the first time.
Wow.
So we want to be powerful parents. Sometimes it's not acting like we have it all together. Sometimes it's actually pulling back the curtain and letting the kids see that these are crazy times.
Right. And that authenticity. Okay. Yeah. Just being authentic.
Yeah.